Hello and welcome and good morning to this Eeveesode number 11 that's going to be about screen space reflections. So, as you probably noticed, it was added to the builds a couple of 2 days ago, I think. So I had a heads up from Clement that it was going to be added, but the buildbots were lagging behind one day, so I've been dragging on to making this video, but now it's finally time. So yeah, he emailed a heads up. I just added the SSR code, and he mentioned that since we're shooting small numbers of rays, 1 to 4, the result is noisy. And he also mentioned that he wanted to implement some kind of temporal reprojection, or TAA, but he hasn't been able to do it yet. So I googled up a bit about temporal reprojection, and when I read the DICE paper, I kind of got the hint of that it's that you're reprojecting the result on the geometry buffer depth somehow. And I also read about the in the Doom 2016 blog post where they did that in-depth graphic analysis about something called temporal filter, but it seems to be two different ways. But anyways, they both try to address this blocky result from the ray tracing. Alright, we can debug. I'm gonna start to check that later when we jump into Blender. He mentioned that, like, for final shading, each full res pixel aggregates arrays from 9 neighboring ray trace pixels. That's why it's a bit blocky. In terms of video memory usage, using full res with 1 sample and half res with 4 samples is equivalent, but the later is a bit faster. So that's something really cool that I saw in the EA DICE paper, that you can render at half res or even a quarter. I think they mentioned even a 1/8 of the final resolution. So they do the ray tracing on that, and then they scale it up and use all kind of trickery to make it look good. So, but yeah, I think that's it's a bit too much to expect all these implementations for like one person, or I don't know. Maybe the lie is also helping out, but still 2 people are kinda... It's a small team compared to what they have at EA DICE and stuff like that. So the stride option is a step between 2 ray march samples. This means an object is smaller on the screen than it can disappear. Fortunately, I did the sample so they never disappear completely, but they can be blurred. This also applies to object edge. So we're gonna see some stuff of that. The thickness option is used to know when a ray hits something. Instead of considering an object being infinitely thick, I added this option to let people tweak this value. So this is just a value you tweak in the post-processing setting for screen space reflection. When I first read this, I misinterpreted it, and I was like, oh shit, it's like, if you remember when Cycle was new and we didn't have subsurface scattering, people were using path thickness. I think you could get it from a node in Cycles, so it kind of measured the thickness of the object the light was hitting. I don't know if you can say ray when it's a path tracer, but anyway, so you can make like thin objects or thin rays or paths have a different shader, so you could get this kind of fake waxy material. And also like glass that looked more realistic, but so it isn't about that, it's something else. We can check it out also. The clamp option is not like in the one in Cycles, as it's clamped progressively the samples. It's not the power of which the color is clamped. So yeah, I noticed that also. It's a bit different from clamping in Cycles. Also, I'm planning to support planar reflection directly in the screen space reflection path to fill the defects of screen space reflection limited information. I cannot tell when it will be in though. So this was kind of 2 days ago. The next day I got a new mail where he said that he has implemented it. So that was a really fast turnaround. So I asked him like if the planar reflection in the screen space reflection path will be used to make the reflection information better, in other means less blocky and stuff. I implemented it today. It's ray tracing the planar reflection instead of the main view. This means the much less hidden geometry from the ray perspective. Also the ray have less pixels to travel and find a hit. Read it faster. So it looks like the planar reflection probe will make most sense to use with when you have the screen space reflection enabled. I think he mentioned here somewhere at that like the planar reflection probe will only make sense if you're gonna have like a mirror or something that's perfectly reflecting. So if you want to have roughness in the reflection and stuff like that, you need screen space reflection. He also addressed, I asked him about the temporal reprojection because it's kind of tricky to understand. As I mentioned, I read in the blog post about Doom, I saw temporal filter, if that was the same thing, but it seems like they're two different stuff. So temporal filter is basically that you use the information from the previous render frame about the reflection only to make the reflection rendered in the current frame look better. Alright, so okay, with all that out of the way, you can pause. I could probably make this bigger if you want to read everything, but I think it was important to mention what Clement sent to me before we jump into Blender. So I have a scene here set up with some it's the scene I've been using before, so I have two, like just one diffuse and one reflective to check it out, and there seems to be a weird reflection down here. It should be coming from the environment map, I don't really know. I might have let's just check if I have a probe I don't see. So I have a planar reflection probe over there. No, I don't have anymore. So let's just take a quick look at this scene. In this kind of rainy puddles, I did them so we can check the reflection a bit more realistic than to have the entire plane reflective. But anyways, as you can see, we only see the environment texture reflected. So if I would go and disable it, oh yeah, I have all the metrics in this scene, but if I go and disable it, you see we don't really see anything else than the light sources. They appear. So we can see I have a couple of like point lights. So let's turn that back on. And of course, on this kind of table surface, this one, I have planar reflection probes. As you can see, when I move it a bit up, we get the reflection from this blue icosphere. So that is nice. But let's go out from there and let's enable screen space reflections. So immediately you can see that we start to reflect objects in the scene, not only the environment texture and light source, but as you notice, the reflection is a bit blocky, which Clement mentioned. So if I go here, so we see the sofa in this reflection. So the first thing he mentioned is that half-res is turned on by default. I think that's really smart. So it's rendering the half the size and then upscales it. So if we uncheck that, you're going to see that the ray trace pixels become a bit smaller and sharper. So back on half res, bigger and blockier, especially here close to. But we can turn it up to 4, so it should be a bit better. But it's kind of still blocky result. Then was the stride. Let me just jump back to the email. Come on. So the stride option is a step between two ray march samples. This means the object is small on the screen that it can disappear. Oh, okay, it should also solve the edges. So let's turn the stride back to 16 pixel. And as you can see, these feet of the sofa are close to reflection. So I think they kind of disappear just under it. But if we lower the stride value, the contact between the sofa legs and reflective surface becomes a bit better. So let's leave it at 4. Or why not? I'm just going to test and crank it up to 128. Then the reflection here is totally gone. Okay, 32 seems to be the max. The same with the samples. 4 is the max, so we can't go beyond it right now. Yeah, also I should quickly just disable it, and I'm gonna enable the debug menu, so we can see we're using 180 meg in this scene, and if I turn screen space reflection on, it bumps to 280. So it's in my experience it's been between like 70 meg and 100 meg. So it's gonna depends on the scene, but it's gonna add a bit to the VRAM to use screen space reflection. I guess it's all the buffer data and stuff like that. Probably. Or the passes, the screen space passes. Oh, that looks really weird. Let's see if... then we have the thickness of the objects. So I guess this is just a value you're gonna tweak. I think I'm happy over there. But edge fading, we can just check that. I guess it's gonna be useful sometime. Well, I can actually see that the thickness was doing something weird. And yeah, the clamp value is not like in cycles. You're not clamping bright or dark pixel, bright pixel. It's so that's also value you're just gonna tweak for look. But as I mentioned, that planar reflection probes are gonna make more sense to use with the screen space reflection to help out with the reflection. So if you look at this this table, it has there's a planar probe here. So, well, sorry, I'm gonna now. You can see if I remove it, we should probably have some kind of reflection from the table, because it's, yeah, we can see it's really soft there amongst the shadows. But let's lift this up again. This reflection is not blocky and all, because I think it's taking the planar reflection first and then add the ray trace, the screen space result above it. So let's see if we can what happens if we add a planar reflection probe to the floor, and especially if we can get rid of these this blocky results over there. So I'm just gonna reset the 3D cursor and add a planar reflection, scale it up a bit, and then you have to kind of move it up like so. So now we actually see the reflection data, and it looks really good in itself. But let's go and hide the data and check out it check it out now. So now we can see that the screen space reflection with the planar reflection, it's working better. I mean, I'm guessing you can see some kind of blocky artifacts there, and there should probably be blocky artifacts here also, but mixed with the planar reflection probe, it looks actually really good. So I'm just gonna check this material, see if I can first of all save, because it crashes sometimes. Throw in a math node, multiply. So that's how it really looked. And maybe I should use, maybe I actually should use add. So it's unfortunately this texture, which is just a noise texture that I'm clamping with a ramp. When I add to it, I'm adding not only the roughness, I'm also adding the area or the size of the puddles. But as you can see now, they become more like frosty diffuse. And here we can see some of the ray traced screen space reflection result, which are still a bit blocky, but over here, where it's not in touch with the surface, looks better. So yeah, I think this is great. I think it's a super good start. I'm really looking forward if Clement or any other developer get the time to look into the TAA or temporal reprojection. And I'm guessing like in the initial release of Eevee we're gonna have this screen space reflection, but I hope like in the future there's no like showstoppers or hurdles for anybody that want to develop stuff like we see in game engines, all this like trickery to make screen space reflection even better. But I think this is a really good start, and it's gonna help out a lot with scenes. And I mean, this is kind of amazing compared to the viewport we are used to. And I find it, the more I use Blender 2.8, it's exactly like in 2.5 days. It's really hard. It's really hard to go back to regular Blender after you've been using this for a while. So, especially if you're like modeling and stuff, and texturing and doing the materials, you really wish that you were in 2.8. So I tried to run the other debug code with the frame rate and stuff, but it seems to be a little bit more choppy, maybe choppier. Let's turn it off and compare. But yeah, it's a bit more choppier. Oh, sorry, I turned off the volumetrics. No. So yeah, it's that can explain why it was a bit choppier. This looks good, and then screen space. So I think this really illustrates how much screen space reflection add to the scene. Like now it's on, now it's off. You can really see the reflection here with only the planar reflection probe, which Clement said is you're gonna basically use it only for perfect reflection like mirrors. But in a scene with that's more like detail, it's really make the scene pop out better and look better in general. So yeah, this is basically this screen space reflection video. I really hope we can see refraction, because as Clement mentioned that the refraction code is gonna use a lot of the stuff from screen space reflection. I guess it's about the depth buffer or G buffer. But I don't really know, so I'm gonna wait until it's added, and Clement hopefully emails me with a heads up that's gonna be in the next daily build. So then I can check out reflection. But I'm looking forward for that, yeah. And of course, best of luck on at SIGGRAPH. I mean, if this doesn't make people drop their jaws or like be impressed, I don't know what will. But I guess I speak for many of us when we Blender users who has been using Blender for a while and been through Eevee. I think it's like the best thing that has happened in Cycles, and I mean it. So yeah, I'm gonna probably record a bit more videos today if I have the time, but it's not gonna be Eevee, so it's gonna be about add-ons. So you can check those videos out if you haven't. The animation node videos is the only one I have done so far. But yeah, download the daily builds or nightly builds from Blender BuildBot, and check out Screen Space Reflections. It really helps out with the scene, so compare that to this. And go through all the settings and make your own scene and try it out. Yeah, over and out. Bye bye. See you next time.